What's up guys, Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today this is going to be a tier list for all those new players out there that are struggling to get lucky and struggling to get those elite hero copies to make the really good heroes your first E5. So, as always, you never want to take any hero you see here past 10 star, but these are all going to be candidates that come from non-elite shards that can be taken to 10 star and sit there and then later fed to your hero you're finally going to build to E5 once you finally manage to get those hero copies. So these are all ones that are very easy to get. Sadly though, I don't really have any from Forest, so big spoiler there, because you know the two that I would pick would be Vesa or Starlight, but both of them are actually they're actually elite hero copies still. So these are going to be ones that you get from normal shards and are very easy to obtain. We're going to go through the list and kind of decide who belongs in what tier and what ones you want to go for and the reasons why. First off, we are going to start with our one Fortress faction hero, and that is going to be a Flame Strike. She can do some really big damage for you early game, and she is very, very easy to get copies of as well. Overall, she has really good synergy with some of the burn heroes in the game, and there's a lot of really good ones out there. So yeah, I would put her kind of in the B tier. I think in order to be in the higher tiers into S or A tier, you have to have some sort of sustainability like a heal. Most of the heroes that you see here are not going to have a heal, and that's why they're not going to go very high. But that is pretty much all from the Fortress faction. Everything else that is from normal hero shards just really are not worth it. Let's move over to Shadow faction. So Shadow has a few of them, and it might surprise you what I say. Number one we're going to throw in here is a B tier Lutz. So Lutz can do really, really good early game. He of course has that really awesome stun to mages, 80% chance to stun them. But his last passive actually allows him to get increased armor break, crit chance, and restore health based on his attack over 5 rounds when he drops below 80% HP for the first time. So does he do a ton of damage? No, not really, but he does have that sustainability from that heal, so it does give him a bit of an advantage over other heroes. Another one that is going to be a very decent candidate, I would say, is going to be a Bloodblade, and I almost want to put Bloodblade up to the A tier, simply because his active has a big heal attached to it. He has a ton of bleeding, he has armor break, which is good for PvE. He just has some pretty overall good stats, and he restores himself of HP when a foe dies. He doesn't have to kill the target, but when an enemy dies, he does have a big heal. His active does damage against 3 targets, which is really, really good. And of course, he does extra damage to rangers. Nice little added bonus. But yeah, his active restoring himself for 240% of HP is pretty amazing. The other one here, I think will probably, I know, Bade's not that bad, as MK says. Bade can be an okay one, but again, he's a hero you absolutely do not want to bring above 10 stars. So he cannot crit, which is very unique as far as heroes go in the game, but he does have a damage multiplier. So his active essentially will deal damage and has a 48% chance to deal 2 times damage, a 36% chance to deal 4 times damage. That's pretty cool because you can really high roll with him, but he can also restore himself for 40% of the damage dealt on his active and increases his attack for 6 rounds. Of course, you cannot crit whatsoever with that active, so that's very, very unique. And then he can also get some damage reduction and more healing when an enemy dies. He, of course, doesn't have to do it. It's just when an enemy dies, he'll increase those and he will heal. And of course, his basic attack is going to target the enemy with the lowest HP, which synergizes well with that healing effect, and has a 50% chance to do 2 times damage, 25% chance to do 4 times damage. So very, very similar to his active. So those are both really, really good. And that kind of rounds out who I would go for in the Shadow faction. Overall, so far the picks have been pretty good, but we're gonna have to drop a tier right here. So we're moving over to Abyss. The first one we're going to drop on here is Queen in the C tier. So Queen can do some really crazy big AoE damage. She of course has her bleed effect on her active, which can be really good. She reduces the crit chance of the target she hits with that and their crit damage. She does have a counterattack, which makes her great early game for slot 1 tanking as well. Her basic attack increases her own crit chance and reduces the target's crit by 20%. It's really, really solid. Really solid. She has a 100% chance to counterattack, deals extra damage. But beyond that, burst is really lacking. She doesn't have sustainability. She doesn't really have anything else in her kit that's really going to help you. So that's why I kind of drop her into the C tier. The other one I am going to put down there as well is Berea. So, you know I love Berea. Berea is one of my favorite heroes in game. But he just is lacking. And I'm almost tempted to drop him down a tier. But he can do some really good damage in PvE. He does, of course, over battle, increases his self 10% armor break, 15% crit, and 25% crit damage. So the longer he lasts in the rounds, the longer he goes, the more damage he's going to do. He's going to do some really good PvE damage for you. Really, really, because his basic attack has a 100% chance to steal armor from the enemy. So yes, he doesn't heal, but he gets tougher and tougher as the battle goes on. And his active is pretty devastating early game for like maybe broken spaces. Basically, his main attack, his big active ability, is only going to hit frontline heroes, but it does insane amounts of damage and increases his attack and armor break. If you can somehow get the front 2 targets down, he will hit the entire back row. And I've seen early game Bereas literally just wipe out an entire back row with a 1 active. It's so satisfying. But again, he doesn't have sustainability, which does mean he is a bit lacking. The next one we're going to go into is, I think I'm going to be putting him in the same tier with the other Abyss heroes in the C tier, and that is Fat Moo. So Fat Moo is essentially a discount version of Cthugha, just a worse version. So he doesn't get many stats in his passives. His basic attack has a decent amount of chance to burn the target, which of course that's not great, but the big part is when he takes damage, he has a 90% chance to burn the target, dealing 120% damage over 1 round. So it's like a mini Cthugha where when he does get hit, he will apply that burn, but only to the target that hits him. It does do some okay damage overall, but his active deals damage against 3 targets and is pretty solid, dealing burning damage over 3 rounds. You know, kind of when I compare this to the other 2, I think I'm going to drop him down to the D tier. He can be okay early game. Is he great? Not really. But you know who is great? The next 2 heroes. The next 2 heroes here, we're going to start off the next one with Kerim. So Kerim is definitely going to that S tier for 10-star heroes. Again, don't build any of these past 10-star. They're only good if you can't manage to find those heroes on our other tier list that is, of course, the ones you want to bring to E5. But Kerim has a really, really cool kit. Whenever an enemy dies, he increases his self 30% attack. So that can stack up really fast. One of his other passives that gives his basic attack, that he basically targets the lowest HP target and restores himself for 45% of the damage dealt. So that is a huge heal. The other one that makes him really, really strong is going to be his active. It deals damage against 2 random backline enemies and heals himself for 35% of the damage dealt. And then it also steals the target for 30% of their attack for 3 rounds and increases his own crit damage by 40%. So there's a lot of buffs going on. There's a lot of healing going on, which healing is very important for these heroes in the early game. And speaking of healing, probably the other one that belongs in that S tier with him is going to be Dantalion, aka Dant Monster, for all you guys that used to watch Wrath of God. He is a very tanky boy. He has armor, attack, and HP in his passives. He is going to increase himself 30% attack and 4% damage reduction for 6 rounds. So essentially at the end of the first 6 rounds from round 7 on, you're going to be sitting there with, what is that? Hold on. Barry Gaming math. 24% damage reduction, 6 times 30%, 180% extra attack. Those are really good if you can survive. And it is not that difficult to survive because one of his other passives is going to be when taking damage, restore itself 4% of the HP loss. So that does make him extremely tanky. His active is really great because it hits 4 targets. It's one of the few on this list that hits that many targets. But I'm gonna read his active just so you know. It's the Flame Sword. Deals damage against 4 random enemies. If the targets are warriors, it deals an extra 140% attack and burns them, dealing an extra amount of damage for 3 rounds. So that's really strong. He can do really great things in Aspen Dungeon early game as well. He's super tanky. He does tons of damage after about round 6. He can be really, really strong. And that's kind of why I put both him and Karim at the very top of the list. So let me know what you guys think about this. Again, want to reiterate one more time. You do not bring any of these heroes over 10 star. What you do is you use these as placeholders. You build them to 10 star, and then after they're at 10 star, you hold. And know what you do? You hold them at 10 star and feed them off to your actual first E5 hero, like, you know, an Inosuke, even make like a Cthulhu, something like that. One of those really good early game heroes to E5. You feed these off to them at E3 or higher, and that's what you need to do. So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this helps you guys out. There we go, English Barry. We got this. Hopefully it helps you guys out. I know not everybody can get lucky in the early game, especially free to play. So definitely try to target these heroes because you can get them in regular shards. You don't have to worry about getting elite copies, anything like that. And I hope this helped you guys out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can see all the awesome new lists we'll make in the future. I'm definitely on the free to play grind right now, so I'm loving everything about free to play, and I'll see you guys next time.